Okay, so you want to like really nail your next big speech right. I totally get it. That's why we're going to like dive deep into all these public speaking materials you shared. Seems like you're on your way to becoming quite the orator.
Yeah, it's not magic or anything, although a really good speech can kind of feel like that.
Totally.
Your material really gets into like all the details about what makes a speech effective, and it's something anyone can learn, which is cool.
I love that. The first thing that really jumped out at me was how much they emphasize knowing your audience.
Right.
Seems kind of obvious, but I bet a lot of people just skip over that part.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that. It's one of those things that's tempting to overlook, but it's so crucial. Like the material actually cited this study that found speeches that were specifically tailored to the audience were rated as like 75% more effective.
Wow.
Yeah, 75%. I mean, think about it. A room full of like high school students, you got to talk to them way differently than a boardroom full of like serious executives, right?
It's night and day. And it makes you realize that you can't just like phone it in with some generic presentation and expect it to land.
Exactly.
So, okay, we're thinking about who are we speaking to, but beyond that, the source material really digs into the how.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean the words themselves, right?
Exactly right. It goes way beyond just the words. They get into this whole fascinating thing about nonverbal cues,
Oh, yeah.
like your body language, eye contact, even like your posture can make a big difference.
Huh?
It's crazy how much these like subtle signals can either really help get your message across or totally undermine it.
Yeah, it's so true. Like, have you ever noticed how if someone's up there like fidgeting during a presentation, it's almost impossible to like focus on what they're saying?
All the time.
It's like their nerves are contagious.
Yeah, and the source material pointed out that like on the flip side, good posture projects confidence,
Oh, yeah.
while fidgeting can actually like undermine your credibility.
Interesting.
Like almost like your body's speaking before you even open your mouth.
Totally. So we've got the audience figured out. We're standing up straight, making eye contact. What about the speech itself?
So this is where I actually love this analogy they use in the material.
Okay.
It's like building a house. Where you
Yeah.
need that strong foundation, solid support beams, and then those smooth transitions between each section are super important too. It's like the roads and bridges that connect everything together.
Okay. I'm visualizing this house now. Strong foundation, solid beams. I'm getting construction vibes here,
There you go.
but I like where you're going with this.
Right. So that strong foundation, that's your introduction.
Yeah, okay.
That's where you got to grab the audience's attention right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Maybe hit them with a startling statistic or a thought-provoking question or even a captivating story that ties into your topic.
Book them right away.
Exactly.
Make them actually want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing those support beams you mentioned, those are like the main points of the speech, right?
You got it. Each point should be like carefully chosen to build upon the one before it, creating this logical flow that's easy for your audience to follow. And just like a house needs solid materials, each point needs strong evidence to back it up.
So it's not enough to just have an opinion on something. You need those cold, hard facts,
Yeah.
the figures, the real-life examples,
Exactly.
the whole shebang.
Precisely. But it's not just about like listing off a bunch of dry facts and figures.
Right.
They suggest like weaving your evidence into a narrative,
Okay.
tell a story, share an anecdote, really try to connect with people on like an emotional level.
That makes a lot of sense. Stories are powerful.
Yeah,
They really stick with you long after you've forgotten the facts and figures.
totally.
Speaking of sticking with people, the source talks about these persuasive techniques. Let's hear about those.
Oh, for sure. They had some really interesting ones in there. Like they get into some fascinating psychological techniques, like using metaphors, which I love,
Metaphors, yeah?
or like the rule of three,
Yeah.
It's really about like understanding how people are persuaded and then, using that knowledge ethically to make your message more memorable.
Yeah, metaphors are great. It's like you're sneaking in a little extra meaning and imagery.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying like time is valuable, you could say something like time is a thief.
Ooh, I like that.
And bam,
Yeah.
suddenly it's way more impactful.
Totally. And the rule of three, for some reason, presenting things in groups of three, it just seems to click with how our brains work.
Yeah, it's true.
Think about it. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
It's true.
Powerful stuff.
I see what you mean. Okay, so we've laid the foundation with that strong intro. We've built up the walls with those solid main points. But even the most impressive house needs a roof. right? How do we wrap it all up with a strong conclusion?
You're totally on point with that house analogy. The conclusion is where you bring it all together, you leave that lasting impression. It's not just like you're abruptly stopping because you ran out of things to say.
Right, it's more like that final flourish,
Eh,
like tying the whole thing together with a bow.
Yeah, the source material talks about using that conclusion to just quickly recap your main points, like
Okay.
a highlight reel of everything you've covered.
So it's about making sure those key takeaways are like burned into their memory as they walk out the door.
Yes. But it's also a chance to encourage reflection. Like, you want people to keep thinking about what they've heard and how it applies to their own lives. And so this is a good place to maybe incorporate a call to action.
Oh, yes. They were big on that, weren't they?
Yep.
Instead of just like dropping all this knowledge, you give them a next step.
Right.
Like go sign this petition or donate to this cause or even just go learn more about this. Give them something concrete to do.
Precisely. You're empowering them to take action.
Right.
Now, beyond just like crafting the words of the speech itself, the source material spends a lot of time talking about delivery.
Okay.
And one thing they really emphasize is practice, practice, practice.
Oh, tell me about it. Practice makes perfect. Whether it's a speech, a musical instrument, even a difficult conversation, like the more you rehearse it, the smoother it's going to go.
Absolutely. They compare it to like rehearsing for a play, and I think that's so true.
Yeah.
The more familiar you are with the material, the more confident you'll feel when you're up there. And that confidence just shines through and makes your delivery way more impactful.
Yeah. And I could see that too, because when you know your stuff backward and forwards, you're not as worried about forgetting what to say or like stumbling over your words. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
What about those other aspects of delivery, though? Like your body language and your tone of voice?
Yeah.
Did they give any tips on that?
Oh, definitely. They have a whole section on practical tips, like remembering to make eye contact with your audience,
Yeah,
speaking clearly and slowly, not rushing through everything,
right.
using gestures effectively. Even something as simple as remembering to smile can make you seem way more approachable and engaging.
It's true.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to listen to a robot up there. We want to see your personality.
Exactly. And they really stress that, like, your body language should match your words.
Yeah.
Like standing tall, using purposeful gestures, all of that adds to your credibility and your impact.
It's like your body's speaking, even when your mouth isn't.
I like that.
Okay, so speaking of enhancing your message, the source material also delves into this whole world of visual aids.
Oh, yeah.
Done well, they can really take things to the next level, right, Brett?
Absolutely. But they're also quick to point out that visuals should be used strategically. They need to enhance your message, not distract from it.
Oh, for sure. You don't want to overwhelm people with some slide that's like jam-packed with text.
Right.
That's impossible to read.
Mhm.
Or like have visuals that are totally irrelevant to what you're saying. It's about finding that sweet spot where the visuals and your words work together in perfect harmony.
Yeah, they suggest keeping your visuals clear and concise.
Okay.
Make sure they're directly related to your main points.
Yeah.
Think like images, infographics,
Cool. Infographics. I
Oh,
love a good
oh.
infographic.
charts. Even short video clips if they add value.
Infographics. Those are great.
Mhm.
Those are like visual summaries that make complex information easy to digest.
Mm.
And, you can't underestimate the power of just a well-chosen image.
Yeah.
It can evoke so much emotion and spark curiosity and just make your speech way more memorable.
For sure. Now, there's one more really crucial aspect of delivery that the source material touches on, and that's handling speech anxiety.
Ooh, yeah, that's a big one.
Because, let's face it, public speaking can be absolutely terrifying for a lot of people.
Oh my gosh, yes. My heart starts racing, my palms get sweaty. It's like my body goes into fight or flight mode.
You're definitely not alone. Like, the source material acknowledges that it's incredibly common to feel that way.
Okay, good.
But they emphasize that it's something you can totally learn to manage with the right techniques.
Okay.
One tip they highlight is to get really, really comfortable with your material.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, the more prepared you are, the less you have to worry about drawing a blank or
Yeah.
messing up your words.
Yeah, totally. Because if you feel confident in what you're going to say, that's like half the battle, right?
Precisely. And they also talk about incorporating like relaxation techniques into your pre-speech routine.
Oh, okay.
Deep breathing, visualization, things
Yeah,
like that.
right.
Finding what works for you to kind of calm those nerves.
So it's like you're tricking your brain into thinking, hey, this isn't so scary. We got this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they emphasize that like even seasoned speakers experience nerves.
Ugly.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
It's about learning to channel that nervous energy into like positive energy that fuels your delivery.
it's like turning those butterflies into like soaring eagles or something.
I love that.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground here. From crafting that killer opening all the way to like calming those pre-speech jitters. What's your biggest takeaway from all this material? Like what really spoke to you?
I think for me, what really stands out is just how much they emphasize storytelling. Like it's woven throughout the entire thing from crafting that captivating intro to like presenting evidence in a way that really connects with people on an emotional level.
Yeah, it's like that old saying, facts tell, but stories sell.
Right.
People might forget a statistic, but they'll remember a compelling story.
Absolutely. And if you think about like the bigger picture, it makes sense. Humans have been telling stories since the dawn of time.
It's true.
It's how we make sense of the world. It's how we connect with each other.
It's hardwired into us.
Exactly.
So incorporating storytelling into a speech, or really any kind of communication, it's like tapping into something very fundamental within us.
I totally agree. It helps us relate to the message, remember it, and even feel inspired to take action.
Powerful stuff. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I have one final thought I want to leave you with.
Okay.
All this material, it focuses so much on like traditional in-person speeches,
Right.
but like we're living in a digital world now.
So true.
So how much of this advice do you think still applies to things like online presentations, video calls, webinars, you know?
That's such a good question. And honestly, I think a lot of it still holds true.
Yeah.
Like you're still trying to connect with an audience, convey information, clearly make your message memorable.
Right, it's just different format.
Exactly. So while the medium might change the fundamental principles of good communication, they stay the same.
They're timeless.
Right. Knowing your audience, crafting a compelling narrative, using visuals strategically, even being mindful of your body language, those are all skills that will serve you well whether you're on a stage or on a screen.
That's a great point to end on. Thanks for taking this deep dive with me.
My pleasure.
It's amazing how much goes into crafting a truly effective speech.
It really is. And you know what? The power of your voice, it's a tool that you can always hone and always utilize.
Love it. You heard it here, folks. Believe in the power of your voice and don't be afraid to let it be heard.